Hi class, Dr. Anderson Duncan here, coming by to touch bases with you as we close Module 4 and moving on to Module 5. I have had the opportunity to catch up on all of the grading, so all assignments are graded and current up to date. A few of you have not completed your reflection for Module 4. You need to go ahead and make sure you get that done. I will allow you to still submit that. And a couple of you should have emails from me in reference to a couple of assignments that you're missing and or if I am proceeding with a drop from you for class. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. I wanted to go over a few things. In class, we're actually moving on to Chapter 8 now. We're in Module 5. Remember that each module is remaining open for 2 weeks. So sometimes it appears that sometimes I do get behind on grading, but when I have the modules open for 2 weeks and then allocate a week to grade, I do sometimes get behind. But feel free, if I miss a module or something, send me an email. If you have questions about something, if you don't understand why points were deducted, I generally put a comment right there letting you know why points were deducted. But if you have questions and you don't understand, by all means, shoot me an email. So, looking at Chapter 8, moving on to Chapter 8, I wanted to spend a few moments going over Chapter 8, problem solving in police problem space. This is a critical topic and something that we need to look at when we're talking about community policing and what that entails. So, we all know and we've looked and understand that community policing is more than just police being in the community, more than just the beat cop on the street. It entails and encompasses much more than that. So far, you've had the opportunity to research and read that. And some of you have been doing excellent jobs on your articles, so forth, where you're actually starting to hit on topics that we haven't even touched on yet. Somebody had already had an article on the comp stat, which we're talking about in this chapter, but you've already had an article, so you already know what we're getting ready to touch on in that. So making sure that you're doing that and taking a chance to take the opportunity to read those articles that your students are posting. Sometimes that's why it is a little longer for me to get the grades back, because I actually do take time to read what you're writing. I look at your articles because I want to know what's going on. So when we start talking about policing, first we have to look at the problem. What is the problem with policing? In this chapter, we're going to talk about an acronym, SARA. And it's one that if you're looking at trying to get down to the core, get down to the issue of a problem in law enforcement using community policing, we need to do SARA. What does SARA stand for? The first aspect of SARA is to scan. You need to scan to see, look around, what's going on. Put on those binoculars if you want to say know what's going on. Once you're able to scan, you want to analyze, take a closer look at it. I've been able to identify that this. Now I want to actually take the A. This next A is analyze. Analyze the situation that actually is going in, and then we're going to respond for the R, and then assess. So Sarah, you're going to scan, analyze, respond, and assess. Which brings me to a very critical thing that we're doing right here in Fayetteville, which some of you may not be aware of. This right here is a document in the Collaborative Reform Initiative that is being headed by the Fayetteville Police Department. Chief Matlock, actually, when he came on board, sought out the Department of Justice in this Collaborative Reform Initiative to come in and take a look at what's going on in the Fayetteville Police Department. So, something may not seem right, but I want to get another set of eyes. Had these group of individuals that came in, took a look, see what was going on, scanning, assessing, their analysis, and analyzing. This document is a list, and I sent the link to you guys when I saw if anybody wanted to actually come to the focus group where we actually spoke about things that are going on. But in this book, it actually identifies several things that the Fayetteville Police Department needed to improve or work on. And this speaks volumes to the police department for somebody to take that initiative, to have somebody come out and say, okay, we want help to make ourselves better. You would be surprised if you look in here and find some of the things that are listed in here. For example, racial profiling exists in Fayetteville. Now, according to what was done in the assessment, there were African Americans and Hispanics were disproportionately ticketed and pulled over in Fayetteville, right here and there. So what do? Okay, so we know this. Now what? What are you going to do with this information? Another thing that came out is up until they had this meeting, it was still policy for the Fayetteville Police Department to shoot at a moving vehicle. Okay, that's still written in their policy. probably need to take a look at that right away. So in this document, this is a great example of the SARA theory being applied. So they're scanning it, and now they're actually in the assessment phase. So some of the things that you may see going on in Fayetteville is they're trying to engage the community. They're trying to be more transparent, let you know what's going on. Some of the other issues in there were the amount of time that it took for them to respond to a complaint. I think it was 60 days. I'm not sure. It was an extensive amount of time that from the time a citizen filed a complaint with the police department to the time that they actually got a response. So like 50 or 60 days. That's an issue. So they actually spoke to that and researched that, and what came about because of this collaborative reform initiative saying is that they're working together, not just with the Fayetteville Police Department, but the U.S. Department of Justice and the community to see what they can do to make their department more effective right here, Fayetteville Police Department. Some of the things that you may see going on in the communities, they have the lunch with a cop, coffee with a cop, where you can go sit down with a police officer and sit down and just chat with them. A lot of times we don't really interact with policing or law enforcement unless we're getting pulled over or we need them for something. But what about taking the opportunity to just sit down and converse with them on what's going on? So they had the Coffee with a Cop program that they were going to have the town hall meetings where Chief Matlock and other executives from the police department were actually coming out, speaking to the citizens, getting their complaints, hearing your voice, and actually taking to go back and do something about that, which is very, very pivotal and very important when we start looking at this chapter, problem solving and police problems, because you may have a problem. You have to be able to understand from law enforcement's perspective a difference between a hot spot and a dangerous place. Your book will go further into that. Talk about a dangerous place and a hot spot as far as crime and what perpetuates crime. This economic, your socioeconomic status, will that have an effect on whether you're going to be more likely to engage in crime or not? Where the location or your geographical location where you're situated. For example, not to pick on any particular area, but in Fayetteville they have certain areas that are more crime heavy or crime stricken than other areas. So why is that? When you look at that, why is there more crime in this particular area than that particular area? So being able to go to the problem and solve the problem of the crime that's actually occurring. Also in this chapter, we're talking about the SARA approach in your response. Make sure that what I want you to be able to do is think about a crime or think about an activity or something that you're aware of and use that SARA. Go through those 4 steps of SARA to say how would you do that? How would you assess that? If it's something so you've come up with your problem, you've implemented it. See, now how will you assess it? The Fayetteville Police Department, they're assessing by having different focus groups with different people in the community, getting feedback. What's going on? Are you seeing this change? Are you seeing that? I want to post this link in this module, and I want you to take a few moments to look at the key findings and recommendations. I'm going to find the key findings, and there were several major areas. One was the use of force and complaints in the Fayetteville Police Department, use of force and police and policy. That was very good. And then traffic stops and field interviews in the police department. Those are your main areas of concentration in this particular different things they were looking at. And I think you will find and be surprised with some of the findings that they've actually found. So once I post this article, I want you to take time to go in there and look at that. I'm not expecting you to read the entire document, just the findings and maybe the recommendations and something that maybe stood out to you, because I think this ties right into what we're talking about with police and problem solving. Moving on, looking at that, we're going to talk about the geographic concentration pattern. What does that mean? A geographic concentration pattern is there something that's happening geographically that is consistent? We're seeing a pattern, something that keeps reoccurring. Why? What kind of problems are you seeing? What kind of crimes? Or certain crimes gravitate towards certain areas. And if you were in law enforcement, how do you come up with a plan to resolve that? What would you do? Understanding that with community policing and looking at problems, you have things that you're working against, as the social organization of crime and disorder, which sometimes goes beyond your control. But what can you do to help set that up and set that problem up? It's not set the problem up, resolve the problem, sorry. So I just wanted to come in and touch bases on that about problem-oriented policing. Police problem in policing. I'm tongue tied, and as I said, I don't go back and edit my videos. And understanding the SARA method and being able to use the SARA method and each component of what SARA stands for. So again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'm looking through your course right here. Make sure your articles are working. You really haven't had any problems on that I've seen as far as operable links working. Everyone's been pretty much on board with that because those are easy points that you do not want to lose. There's no reason to lose those points. Just take time and make sure that those are actually open. All right, I want to go over a few of some of the questions you may see. The police are primary blank agencies in society. The police are primarily what kind of agency? Are they criminal agencies, a service agency, or a social control agency? When you think about police officers and law enforcement, what are they there for? Why are they there? They're not just there for criminal, right? They're not there to just, somebody had a good point. And when I was reading, they were saying when they were younger, they remember their parents saying, oh, the police, law enforcement, if you're bad, they're going to take you away. They're going to do, and a lot of times we don't realize that we're already influenced children at that younger age, giving them that negative connotation of law enforcement. So they already, oh, if I'm bad, police are bad, they're going to take me, they're going to take me. But no, it's not that. It's not that they're out just for the criminals, and it's not that they're actually out just to do a service. It's a combination. It's the social control aspect. We want to be able to collaboratively live in a community and function where sometimes you give up a little bit for a little bit of freedom, or you give up a little bit of something to get something. So it's like that social contract. So they're actually focusing as like a social control agency, being able to keep things in order, looking at things in that regard. Police become involved when social conditions result in incidents of what? Social conditions. So we already said that they're a social control agency, right? They're not just a criminal agency. They're not just a service agency. So they become involved with social conditions when what happens? Why would you have law enforcement involved? If some type of crime occurs, as far as the social conditions, if some type of crime or criminal activities occur, then you usually that's when you're gonna see your law enforcement. Now, we're not saying that you won't see them when they're doing the service. Sometimes they're just, what's that shop with a cop with the sheriff's department. Sometimes you see them out there doing that, but their main thing when we talk about the social condition, we're gonna see them what kind of incident, criminal activity. The mechanics of problem solving include the following. What? Problem solving. Except what? The mechanics of problem solving include what? Except this. Trial and error, scanning, analyze, response. The mechanics of problem solving. So that's just what I just talked about. What are those 4 components that we're going to look at when we're trying to solve a problem? And I said that's SARA. So scanning, analyze, response, trial and error. Which one is not? Trial and error is not. That is not part of the SARA. That's not part of the problem solving. Reactive policing. We've already talked about that. Responding instead of being proactive. So this reactive policing and problem solving are 2 different police strategies. How do they differ? One depends on rapid response and answering calls, while the other recognizes condition causing crimes. Both recognize that crime and problem are a result of numerous society conditions that are outside of our control. They are similar in that they react to crime and attempt to prevent them. So the question was, how do they differ? Don't get caught up when you read that. How do they differ? One is focused on finality, right? And not really resolving the problem and being there prior to it. Problem solving represents a tactic that goes beyond traditional policing that is an attempt to solve problems. Is that true or false? Problem solving represents a tactic that goes beyond traditional policing that is an attempt to solve problems. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if we look at the evolution of policing and how policing evolved, they didn't work on problem solving and how to fix a problem before. It was all being reactive, right? So it's already there. So now we're just reacting to that. All of today's true or false? All of today's law enforcement agencies embrace change and problem solving. I don't think we need to even answer that one. All of today's law enforcement agencies embrace change and problem solving. We can take that outside of law enforcement. How many places or people of us, how many, people are resistant to change, period. It doesn't change. It's not going to change just because it's law enforcement. People are resistant to change. A hotspot is a location that attracts criminals and results in high level of violent crime. Is that true or false? A hotspot is a location that attracts criminals and results in high levels of crime. Hotspots is talked about on page 308. And that answer would be false because it's a geographical location. It has a concentration of crime. That's on page 308, talking about hotspots. Let's see. Community partnerships are one of the key ingredients to community policing. True or false? You can't have a partnership unless you have two people involved, right? So that would definitely be true. The goal of blank is to determine why a problem is occurring. Using the problem-solving tactic is Sarah. So using that, the goal of which one of those components is used to determine why a problem is occurring. Problem solving, scanning, assessment, or analyze. If you're trying to look at why something is occurring, you're going to analyze it, right? You're going to take it apart. Look, I'm trying to dissect it to see what's going on. So you're going to analyze. Assess would not be, if you're trying to look, assess you just looking at something and making, okay, yes, no. Okay. Blank, still looking at the problem-solving tactic. Blank refers to a process whereby individual officers, police units, or police departments collectively examine the community for problems or hotspots. Which one of those acronyms under Sarah refers to a process whereby individuals or officers collectively examine the community for problems? If you're trying to find out something, if you're looking around to see if there's a problem, I'm trying to see, you're scanning. So scanning. So that's why I wanted to draw and spend a little time on Sarah, because you're going to see a lot of questions surrounded around Sarah, a lot of questions surrounded around hot spot, dangerous spots. So make sure that you understand those. According to the text, criminals are attracted to geographical location by what? They're attracted to a geographical location by their work, their residence, potential victims. Yeah, criminals are attracted to geographical location. It will be all of the above. Their work, their residence, or the potential victims. Let's see. Should we do one more? Let's do one more. We'll do a true or false. Community surveys are a way of measuring people's attitudes about the police and the police performance. True or false? Community surveys. True. True. I think that was a pretty easy one. So I'm sorry that this video was so long, but I wanted to spend a few minutes and just go over a couple of your questions that you may see as you're preparing for your test, for your assessment, and also just highlight Sarah. Make sure you're understanding what Sarah is. Make sure you're understanding hot spots. Make sure you're understanding dangerous spots. Make sure your links are working, and then also to just go over a few things. So other than that, I think that is it. Module 5 is open. Module 5 will remain open until the 21st. I'll go in and open Module 6 shortly. So if you guys don't have any questions, or if you have any questions, shoot me an email or give me a call. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.